We're live on YouTube. It's 7 p.m. and that's in the UK. And I've got the Keto Pro with me. Hi, Rich.
Good day. You okay?
Yeah, and I'm loving the mic. It's a great quality there.
Mic
And
settings finally resolved.
yes, so every week it will be perfect. And as Matthew's saying in the comments, please like and subscribe. It's a bit early for people to like and subscribe because if they've never seen us before, they've got no idea what we're going to be like. But we're going to be answering questions as soon as people start asking the questions. Did you have a good day?
Yes, I was just giggling to myself the fact that I've got this super posh mic that we've just realized has never been connected properly to this, the YouTube live. The problem finally resolved.
Yeah, that's good. It's
evening,
amazing
Jen.
what... there's Matthew and there's Tom J. Tom J is one of your people, isn't it?
Well, I think he's both of ours now.
Well, yeah, I suppose we could say that. Right, you happy to go straight into a question?
Let's do it.
Okay. Question from Andy 828. Any suggestions for the timing of meals and training, both resistance and cardio, for optimal protein synthesis? What a great question.
Do you want me to kick it off, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a massive, and I believe this is Andy that I had a consultation with recently. If it is, let me know. Yeah, there's a theory in regards to the anabolic window in which we must consume within 45 minutes of any intense exercise to maximize muscle protein synthesis. This is a myth. It's not true. And the fact is that you do not have to time the meals in regards to the ingestion of your protein to repair and build muscle and heal the body. As long as you consume adequate protein within, and I would say within a week time frame. So some people will specify a day, but if we were to believe that, then we must also believe that a 24-hour fast is detrimental to building muscle. But we know that that's not true because the body does actually increase human growth hormone and testosterone when we are fasting. So when we're in the state of autophagy, the body has the ability to heal and repair despite being technically in a catabolic state. So if you were to fast, for example, for 24 hours, then I would suggest that the average intake of your protein divided between each day would equate to around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. We did a minimum of 0.82 to build and 0.5 in order to prevent muscle loss. You're not going to become catabolic at the site of the muscle. You would have to not train any resistance training for an awful long time. The body is precious when it comes to muscle protein. It's not going to spend the muscle protein that it's spent a long time to build because we need it in order to hunt and track our prey as we would have been through our evolutionary period. So muscle is precious. We're not going to lose it. So my best suggestion in regards to timing, and this isn't every day. This would be typically as and when you can. But we want to hit something called the metabolic window. The metabolic window, or the mTOR reset, apologies, the mTOR reset. mTOR typically lasts 3.5 to 4 hours. So if we ingest around 3 grams of leucine, so from an animal source, that would equate, depending on the protein source, between 40 to 50 grams, we activate mTOR. So now, if you think of fasting or AMPK and mTOR, they work in like a seesaw effect. So they work against each other. So now mTOR is activated, autophagy is subsided. Now mTOR is our anabolic signal. This is when we're growing. So if you were to activate this and then allow 3.5 to 4 hours and then eat again, then you're activating another mTOR. And then 3.5 to 4 hours later, you could activate another one, and so on and so forth. A number of things activate mTOR. Resistance training activates mTOR directly. Carbohydrates would activate mTOR through IGF-1, which is not preferenced. And leucine would activate mTOR directly. So in theory, you could fast for a set period of time. So say, for example, have your last meal at 8 p.m. and then you could train fasted at 7 a.m. You could do an hour's worth of training. Now you've activated mTOR, and now you've sent an anabolic signal to the body, and now mTOR is activated. If you wait 3.5 to 4 hours later and then consume a meal, then you've activated mTOR again. And this is important not to consume anything in between this either, because we sort of reactivate mTOR, which sounds correct, but it's not. It's counterintuitive. So a typical bodybuilder, for example, is constantly in an elevated state of mTOR, and this is the reason that I believe that most of them suffer the ill fate of lower lifespan. In America, it's around 12 years lower than the average American. It's quite often attributed to anabolic steroids, but I believe that it's through this constant activation of mTOR via IGF-1. So it's not preferenced. So if you do that without snacking, you could technically activate mTOR 4 times within 1 day, which is the maximum that you're going to be able to benefit from those activations. And you are technically getting in a fast and benefiting also from autophagy. You could still eat 2 meals per day and train and activate 3 times. Or if you were having an off day, you could consume 3 meals and still get 3 activations. So those are the timings, 3.5 to 4 hours. 40 to 50 grams of protein, that would equate to 3 grams of leucine, and that's optimal. You can activate mTOR with a lower amount of leucine, but 3,000 milligrams or 3 grams of leucine is optimal for mTOR activation. And it's as simple as that. It's don't get caught up with consuming food straight after your training. You don't need to. And as I say, it's this average throughout the course of the week divided by the days. If you don't eat 1 day, then that's not going to cause any problem.
That's a brilliant answer, Rich, and it echoes exactly what I've learned throughout my years. I used to believe all the stuff in my 40s, eating 90 minutes before and 2 hours afterwards and get your protein in. And you hit the nail on the head there when you said about fasting. See, now there's many people fasting, doing intermittent fasting. We're proving all that is absolute rubbish. And I've been careful with my language there. And also, when you look into all the recommendations that you are told, and then you get into the actual science, you find that that's not true as well. Like the 30 grams of protein per meal is absolute tosh. You see proper scientific studies where they're taking biopsies of muscles and seeing that 40 grams is better than 20, and people can have 100 grams and still see protein synthesis. So I think one of the things I'd like to add is the trial and error as well, which is look at what it's doing to your body. And if you feel that working out fasted first thing in the morning is more productive than what the science says, let's say, then do it your way, because there is a little element of individuality. And also, I think, I'll go in to train at 6:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, whenever it suits. And when I coach people, they say, when is the best time to work out? I actually say the time that you can do it. Because if you have that rigid, it's going to be 6:30 every morning, and you can't make it every so often at 6:30 in the morning, your determination to do a regular habitual thing has actually worked against you. So try and be a little bit more intuitive as well with training, I would say. I love the fact that we can talk about activating mTOR and looking at the optimal performance. Rich knows all about that, winning a pro bodybuilding show. I did a bodybuilding show and I looked okay, so that's the other thing I was going to say is where are you trying to get to? If you want to look okay on the beach, it's probably not as critical to think about these things. But if you want to win a pro bodybuilding competition, then these fine margins do make a really big difference. But in the end, if you're sweating over something, worrying over something, and stuffing food into you when possibly you don't need it, not listening to your body, then you could find all of that counterproductive. So do look in the mirror and track and emotionally how you feel and everything like that as well.
Just to quickly add to that, I wasn't ignoring you when I was looking at my phone. I was trying to find Life Like Jake on Instagram, an American who we've been trying to arrange a podcast for quite some time, but the time difference hasn't sort of panned out. But he did a post recently which quoted a line by I think it was Usain Bolt that said that I've worked 4 years to run 9 seconds. So it's probably a saying that you're familiar with. And that hit home with me because it just reinforced the fact that we expect to see these incredible results very quickly. And that's not real life. You get what you put in, but building muscle, we don't build muscle 10 kilograms in a month. And people on YouTube who say this are just talking at the rubbish. At the top end, we can build 0.8 pounds per month, which would equate to about 10 pounds of lean mass in a year. And this would be heavily, supplemented as well with anabolics. So if you were building 4 to 5, which you can do, but if you can build 5 pounds within a year, 6 pounds of lean mass, you were doing incredibly well, which is what Ronnie Coleman, I believe, was doing 4 to 6 pounds of lean mass towards the end of his career. And he was obviously heavily supplemented. So these results come very slowly. So don't expect things to happen overnight.
Yeah, I think this is it. There's so many different things I can remember in my past. One was I used to have a manager when I had a proper job where I was training people. It wasn't really a proper job, I suppose, but he had a thing on the wall, one of these inspirational things, and it said, "Those people that win." Right, let's start again. Those people that think that winning a silver medal at the Olympics is not worth doing has never won a silver medal at the Olympics. So I think that's it. And when I was in the tennis world, it was crazy because people were saying about Tim Henman, he's not that good. He's in the top 10 of the world. That's good. That's really good. Anyway, talking about supplements, it's almost as if we've scripted it, but we haven't. Tom J here. Question for Rich. And I know why it's just for Rich. As soon as you hear the question, you'll know. Have carnivores been asking for supplements with animal flavors like bacon, ribeye, or duck instead of plant flavors? This would be a logical request, in my opinion, considering the goal of carnivore. What do you think?
So are you talking about sort of beef flavored electrolytes, for example?
Yeah, that's what he is. Because I picked up my electrolytes and thought, that's orange and lemon, isn't it? Why have I asked for orange? Well, I haven't. That didn't ask. That's what was available, so I had it.
Yeah, it's the reason that we've landed on the flavors that we have are because they are the easiest to create naturally. But if they were a market for a beef flavor, I mean, technically that's a bone broth, isn't it? Just with added electrolytes. I mean, could we do a bone broth blend with added electrolytes? Quite possibly. That could be one for the project board. Food for thought. I like it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And I love this. Is why I like the lives. I mean, we don't prep the answers and we don't ask people to submit questions beforehand. So it's the real reaction. And I think that's amazing because we're always saying about, vegans having fake bacon or fake bacon and all this sort of stuff. And yet here we are as carnivores and we've got lemon drinks, orange drinks. It's a really good point, actually. And talking of really good points, I'm on fire tonight with my smooth segues. Peter's asking, in an ideal world, would there be enough food to feed 8 billion carnivores?
Well, yeah, I think they've proven this, haven't they? When we look at the amount of land on the planet, the argument would be that there isn't enough land to have ruminant animals, but half of the land that we grow or can't grow crops on is in the mountains, and it's land that they can't flatten to grow crops anyway. And I think there was a study recently which showed that we could all live off animal proteins comfortably. So all of this, misinformation within the media, that's exactly what it is. It is misinformation. When it comes back to the vegan or vegetarian lifestyle, they destroy way more animals than a carnivore does. An average carnivore would consume 1 cow per year, 2 probably for me because I eat a lot. But that's what, two animals. And I love animals, and we've covered this many times. I'm an animal lover, and this is why I'm carnivore, because if I was vegan, then every time I drive to the supermarket, I would technically be killing a family of squirrels. Every time, I order in my avocado to be flown in, or almonds or whatever it is to be thrown in from other side of the world, I am contributing to the degradation of the atmosphere through all of these fumes, the jet fuel that's put into the atmosphere. So it is exactly that, and it's simple. It makes perfect sense. And when we come back to global warming from cows farting into the atmosphere, it's absolutely ridiculous. Think about it logically. Vegans fart way more than cows do. It's and Sean Baker put an interesting post recently that when grass decomposes, that puts off just as much methane as a cow does. But how much of the interesting thing with the methane from animals is that it gets sequestered back into the soil. It's essential for feeding the microbes within the soil, which regenerate the soil and grow more earth, more grass, for more animals to feed off. It feeds an entire ecosystem. It isn't pumped up into the atmosphere the way that jet fuel is. And that is a massive misconception within the community. If you love the planet, if you care for animals, then you would be a carnivore. And that is the plain and simple truth. But unfortunately, we are heavily misled by the propaganda within the media and ulterior motives by the food industry. And this is probably one for the next channel. But
yes. Yeah. I mean, we are on the next channel at 8 p.m. on something that rhymes with crumble. 84% of food waste in the entire planet is plant material. So firstly, there's that end of it as well. So most plant material ends up being wasted in comparison to other products. If you look at the population of the planet and they were all to stand shoulder to shoulder with each other, I think they take up something like 60% of the land mass of just Texas. So there's an awful lot of land left over when you look at it. So this thing about there being too many people on the planet, is that really true? I mean, there are absolute swathes and swathes of land where there is no people whatsoever. So I think it's just looking at it differently. And I agree with Rich completely and utterly. I mean, the animal deaths to provide food for the vegans is much greater. So yes, in an ideal world, there would be enough. I suppose we could be really picky with the semantics of that question to say, yeah, that would make it an ideal world. So the fact that there was 8 billion people, all carnivores, would make an ideal world, if you see sort of circular argument there. Right, anyway, right, let's go on. Ignoring all the hellos and good evenings today because we didn't get through all the questions last week. So Tam is saying, hi, boys. Hope you are both well. So got dates for both my knees surgeries, right first, but need to lose another 1.5 stone, which is about 18 pounds for people in America there. So I've hit a wall. Any help? Still eat 6 eggs and steak. Any advice? Already lost 25 kilograms. Do you know Tam?
I do indeed. And
do you have any advice to?
Yes. Look, take the yolks out of your egg. Plain and simple. If you're cooking in butter, tallow, lard, ghee, or anything else during cooking, remove that. Gravitate the odd day to pure lean cuts. We want to ramp up the body's ability to oxidize stored body fat over consuming dietary fat. So the less we put in, the more that we ramp up. We're not going to be without. This is why the body stores body fat. It's there to be used at a later date. 25K is absolutely phenomenal. So massive congrats on that. That 1.5 to go as a percentage. That's a baby step for you. And I'm sure that through macro manipulation of reducing dietary fat, that you will be hitting that incredibly quickly. But it is as simple as that. I mean, one argument would be to move more. But as I proved during one of the competitions that I did a few years ago, prep for a competition, I dropped, I think it was 28 pounds, or maybe possibly even more in 5 weeks. Most competitors would spend 3 to 6 months on a cut, and I cut for this competition in 5 weeks on 0 cardio, and I did it purely through macro manipulation. That's not fit and healthy. It's not good for the body, but I did it to prove a point that we can ramp up the body's ability to utilize stored body fat purely by twisting that switch. So as simple as that. Take egg yolks out, remove any fats from cooking, and gravitate the odd day or two to leaner cuts of meat.
Would you introduce any sort of fasting regime for people?
Yeah, fasting is fantastic. It works incredibly well for me. When you're not eating, you're burning stored body fat. And typically the argument would be that, well, when you do eat, you still eat in the same volume, but we have the ability to increase brown fat activation through fasting, which means that the cells have wiggle room. And you do find that despite consuming the same caloric value, that the body does expend more energy. Plus there's the thermic effect of protein. But this wiggle room through brown fat activation, through autophagy, which is constantly going on, even through just living a ketogenic carnivore lifestyle, but that will also allow further fat oxidation. How long is a piece of string? You need to do it to suit you. You don't want to do it too long, too fast. It's got to be sustainable. Always break your fast with protein and fat. Obviously never break, not that you would break it with carbohydrate, but we do get the feeling that we have earned a treat quite often, and I've seen this very regularly within the keto community. Somebody would do a 24-hour fast and think, oh, I've earned this fast, and then they would eat a sugary treat. This can be detrimental to your health. It can lead to hypoglycemia. So you need to break the fast with fats and proteins. So just continue to eat the foods that you would normally.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And you mentioned brown fat there. So I suppose that triggered my brain into cold therapy as well, like cold showers. And that does the same sort of thing. Your body is geared up to warm you up rather than promote movement. So it burns fat to do that and make your temperature go up. So there's lots of different strategies you could use. You could look at taking the yolks out of the eggs. So you're reducing the dietary fat. You could look at a little bit of fasting. You could look at cold therapy. Would that be the right way to sum it up, Rich?
Yeah, I think so. I think implementing those, one or all, and you're going to see a rapid movement with weight loss, I should imagine.
Yeah, cool. We're not doing the 60-second challenge this week, but we'll definitely get it working at some point. Nobody mentioned it, and nobody said they enjoyed it, so we didn't do it again. Tam there, who do I hit up for Fat Club, please, and how do you join? Well, it's in two places. Mighty Networks is the first place you could try, because that's Richard's baby, but we've both done the same course. It is the same course, babe. Basically, I've got it on the app as well, but Mighty Networks would be the place to go. We can put a link in, and it's really that simple. So thanks for asking. And again, we're not setting people up and asking them to ask these questions. Fat Club, for those that don't know, is an 8-week course, and every beginning of every week, Rich goes through a presentation with me and teaches me all about it. And I am the student. And then in between those days, there's other material about commitment, creating good habits, place for exercise, how many meals per day, your macros, everything you want to know over 8 weeks to get where you want to be. So Mighty Networks. If you don't like Mighty Networks, the reason we did the app is some people don't like the Mighty Networks navigation, so they're more a fay with apps. So anyway, we'll put the links in the description tomorrow morning. Right, Matthew, do you recommend any keto low carb documentaries from streaming services such as Amazon, Prime Video, and Netflix? I like Fat, a documentary featuring Vili Tortorich. Anyway, that I know the name, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Can you think of anything that you'd recommend?
Yeah, I think I don't get a chance to watch TV very often. My head is usually in clinical trials research papers. As sad as that sounds. There was one that I watched a few years ago, and I think it was called What's with Wheat. That was incredibly informative at a basic level to explain to people why grains are detrimental to your health. Worth a watch. I think a lot of the information there is probably beneath most of you, but it's always good because they do go into a little bit of detail about the shikimate pathway, how glyphosate blocks PEP, phospholinolpyruvate, and that's the input to the shikimate pathway. So that's quite informative, but a great documentary. I can't think of any others off the top of my head. I have promoted one or two during my time on Instagram, but it's been quite some time since. There was one that I put on recently on Netflix, and within 2 minutes, I quickly realized what their agenda was. So I turned it off because, yeah, it was just full of terrible information. But yeah, do you have any, Steve?
Yeah, I think there's one called the Sugar Movie or That Sugar Movie. Which,
that sugar film, I think. Yeah, that was incredible. Yeah, very good. Enjoyed that as well. Yeah,
that's talking about a film producer who's quite a big wig in Hollywood, and his son was having seizures, and he found the ketogenic diet and also found it absolutely diabolical, the advice he was getting. So he set up this foundation, the Charlie Foundation, I think it's called. That's very good. Tom, we're going to just jump a few comments ahead because there is Tom has put Fat 2, Beyond Impossible, Magic Pill, which I've definitely heard of, Serial Killers 1 and 2, and most of those are free to view. So that's a good question. I think Rich and I are very similar in the fact that neither of us watch TV and documentaries, even documentaries which purport to be sort of on our side, in inverted commas, I find very difficult because they're not for information, they're for entertainment, and they really do take some shortcuts, and it's atrocious. I read all of Graham Hancock's books, which is nothing to do with Keto or Carnival, and his documentary was a huge hit on Netflix, and I couldn't stand it. Even though I love the subject matter and I love Graham Hancock and think it's great, I was ripping my hair out at how badly produced it was. Now, many, many years ago, when I was involved in the media, I was talking to a documentary maker, the director, and I actually said, when you go into the documentary, are you going in to find out and then report back on what you find? And they went, no, we know where we want to go and we just find the material to back that up. Because it's entertainment. They're not looking to expose or reveal anything in particular. And they were unabashed by that as well, absolutely unabashed about this. And there you go. So unless you look like you want to say something, Rich, or shall we move on?
Yeah, no, I just agree. This is why I tend not to watch educational pieces on Netflix or Prime. You know, you always want, even as you say, for the ones that seem to be on our side, we are truth seekers, and several times we've been hit with comments and studies that seem to give the impression that our lifestyle is detrimental to our health. I live the lifestyle because of all the information that I have read, all the studying that I've done has led me to this path, and I truly believe that this is the healthiest way to live. Should we come across a piece of information that puts that in question, then I would question everything that we're doing. So I'm not wedded to this lifestyle. I'm wedded to being fit and healthy and optimal health. I want to be the fittest and healthiest that I can be. I want to be the best version of myself. If that meant adding in some sort of plant compound, dare I say it, and the evidence was there and I couldn't find any flaws in that evidence, then I would contemplate that. But all of the evidence that I have read, all of the studies and everything that I have carried out myself, my own personal experience has led me to where I am now. So I do question any documentary, whether it be in our favor or not, because there's always a hidden agenda in there, isn't it? But Game Changers was a big one. I went to the cinema to watch that with a friend of mine, a guy, and I was quite big at the time because I was bodybuilding. He was absolutely huge. So there's two really built guys going into the cinema together. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was, you could see that quite early on that everybody else who was in there was a vegan and they were like getting really well into it. But I was thrown at the end of it. My friend turned on and said to me, "Yeah, is that right?" And I need to look into it, because the evidence seemed so compelling that it had to be true. But then when you break down, those clinical trials research papers, you find that it's all misconception and it's been built, as you say, to fit an agenda. And I don't agree with that, whether it's on our side or not.
Yeah, and I think with the Game Changers, I can remember a year after it was out, somebody was asking me about it. So I researched all the people that were featured in there. And
Most
off the
of them
top
are
of my
not vegan
head,
anymore.
about 15 of them had either given up eating plant-based, become very unwell, or were injured in sport and were not recovering. And it was incredible. Actually, there was even a couple that I think had stopped being vegan in between the filming and the release. So, and I think that's continued. I think even more of the people featured, as time has gone on, have proven themselves to probably spoken too soon or jumped the gun. Anyway, and finally, of course, real world experience. So I've got over 120 success story videos. Now, all those people have remarkable changes in their lifestyle. So if you've got 120 people proving that this way of eating is helpful, you can't say it isn't, because just 120 is not a lot of people, but it is in the scheme of things, because I'm just one bloke in the UK. So anyway, let's move on. Phil W. Hi, Phil. Thanks for tuning in again. Would be interested in both of your opinions. Oh, I'm being included in this one. That's good. On intermittent hypoxic training. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to do it, Rich?
Fire away.
Okay. Well, basically, this is when people go to high altitudes, they come back and they perform better. So when you've got an athlete, they go out for 6 weeks, they acclimatize, they are having reduced access to oxygen, and they're medically supervised, and everything's very nuanced. So anyway, what happens is you get this better performance in the person, and when they come back for a little while, there's this sort of knock-on effect, and that's down mainly to the production of red blood cells, because it up levels the production of red blood cells, your metabolic rate and respiration in tissues, and everything is absolutely improved. Your utilization of oxygen is optimized. So when you come back to train, you try to mimic that by restricting oxygen supply and intermittently giving you the normal oxygen supply, and your body adapts. So that's how that works. So my opinion is it's very good. Mainly because, having worked with, I'm always going on about this, but one particular Olympic athlete, when they do travel and they're able to have 6 weeks away and then come back, it is noticeable. Everything is better. Everything has improved. So that particular person was a type 1 diabetic, and even management of blood glucose was better from this high altitude competition and training beforehand. So I think it's a good thing. In some respects, I think also when you've got the cuffs that restrict your blood flow, which is sending a muscle signal back to the body that you're fatigued, and you're getting the physiological benefits of that, that's okay. But I do think that there's a hidden problem with that as well, because your body needs to work with the weights that actually fatigue it because of the structures around it. So if you're doing a bicep curl and you've got a cuff on there and you're restricting oxygen and you're getting the benefits of training to fatigue in some respects, you're not getting the benefits of like the joint fluid, the connective tissue, or the movement in the joint actually is a big issue for me. Because when you're doing a bicep curl or you're doing a pull-up or whatever, the whole kinetic chain is involved in the force that's gravity, and you're pulling against it normally. So if you fake that and you fatigue, none of the supporting structures have actually had the workout that you want. All you're doing is you're basing it on the return of signaling from the oxygen usage. So there's pluses and minuses, but I certainly think there's a place for it. that's my two penneth, as you say, Rich. What about yourself?
Yeah, when I began running and cycling earlier this year, I was incredibly new to it all. I tried to do too much too soon and I injured. And basically, the long and the short is I was out of action for probably 3 to 6 months with injury, for which I had a lot of backlash from the running club and stuff. Keto makes your bones and muscles weak and all this sort of stuff. And the fact is, I just tried to run too far, too fast, too quickly. You should be making these little steps, these incremental changes. But I had already entered a duathlon. Yeah, I think it was March or April. But I was out of action for a few months leading up to it. But I didn't want to pull out of the duathlon, but I didn't want to make a fool of myself either. So what I began to do is I could barely run. I don't know if it was shin splints, but that's what it felt like. My calves were cramping. I was just coming up with all of these issues in my lower legs constantly. So how do you maintain fitness when you can't do an awful lot? So my entire training for this duathlon was done on an indoor bike, split training on both riding and running. And I would do 2.5K, only 2.5K on a running machine, with heavily on a running machine with suspension to take away the impact. I increased my cadence a lot, so my legs are working overtime to reduce that impact. But I wore a mask that would restrict my oxygen. Now, there's a lot of research which would suggest that isn't the same as high altitude training, but I was willing to try anything because I only had a few weeks to try to get fit for this duathlon. And that's what I did every time I was on the bike. And I was only doing 5 or 10K on the bike, again, spinning with high cadence, no power. And every time I was running, it was 2.5K. And I'd split the training morning and night. So I was technically getting 5K in a day, but not in one go. If I tried to do it in one go, I would be injured. But this oxygen restriction mask, I think that it worked. When it came to the competition, I performed a lot better, way better than I was ever expecting. So, I've only got that to go on. The research is very mixed, but I haven't used it since. Maybe I should try to reintroduce it again, but, I've improved, massively since then, but it seemed to confer some benefit when I did implement it.
Well, that's it. Real world experience. That's what we were talking about. And I think it maybe a little experiment with it for 6 weeks, and then 6 weeks washout period, and then 6 weeks measuring your metrics again. It's so hard, but I think you do know when you're performing better. I'm old school. If I go into the gym, I tend to start with pull-ups. I just do. And if I find 6 pull-ups difficult, I'm pretty much like, I know this is going to be a tough session today. And it's how you look at things. Other days I just, oh wow, I feel really strong, and I'm just shooting up. The pull-ups are really easy. So I think it's difficult to say categorically what works, because there's so many confounders as well. Because I might have a bad day at the gym starting off, but by the end of it, I'm absolutely pumped up and feeling great. And other days I go in feeling really strong and vital, and I leave and I feel shattered, absolutely shattered. But the thing is, I'm still looking all right, still got me guns, still got me abs. So anyway, I'm trying to bring it down to less sciencey and more into see what you do. I mean, don't ignore it if you're interested in it. And I know Phil is. Keep going and drop us a message on how it's gone. I want to pop this in. This is again jumping the gun, but people might have forgotten what we were talking about. White Wolf is saying Bovril type electrolytes, yum. So I do think maybe this is something like a bone broth type electrolyte. So James is asking, really nice, simple one for us. What do you cook your food in? In the kitchen? No, sorry. Most of my food is the air fryer. Big fan of the air fryer, but it's got multi-settings, so you can have an air fryer, you can have a grill. If I do pan fry something, then we're gonna combine your questions, James, because you said, what do you cook your food in? and what oils do you use to cook your food in. So utensil, air fryer is my sort of top thing. Pan frying is another one. Try not to have Teflon. What oils do I use? It depends on what I'm cooking, but it will be butter, lard, or tallow. That's it. So nice and simple. And as someone said to me in the week in one of my success story interviews, utensils, you don't need so many. This is the beauty of Carnival. You need less prep. There's less ingredients. There's less to go wrong. The cleaning's easier, and it's a no-brainer. And I've done a meal plan because I've realized that people do actually want that, even though it's a really simple way to eat. And it's also a simple way to cook. And that's what I noticed when I was doing the instructions on how to cook these things. I could literally do it off the top of my head and just write 6 or 7 instructions. And a lot of it was really simple. And I'm thinking, wow, I could do a cookbook. I could probably write it in an afternoon because it is so simple. But anyway, that's my answer. What about you, Rich? What do you cook in and what oils do you use?
Pan fry everything with the lid, and I don't use any oil or butter, tallow, lard, ghee. Butter, tallow, lard, ghee are my preferences, but I just use the juice from the meats that I'm cooking in, and I'll pour the fats over my meal. I'll put the lid on the pan when I'm cooking, so it's cooking in its own heat. I try not to cook it too quickly, because burning the meat can increase the amount of acrylamide. So I pan fry low and slow. It doesn't take awful long, especially when you put the lid on, but I don't use any oils anymore when cooking. It's been a long time since I've added anything. I'm not against it. I just don't feel that I need to put those in. So that is me. Super boring, but it's as simple as that. No, I used to love cooking. Pictures popped up on my Facebook feed recently, like 5 years ago and 10 years and all this sort of stuff. And the meals that I'm a really good cook, believe it or not. And I make them look incredible as well. And these meals popped up and they looked awesome, but they were predominated with vegetables and sauces and all this sort of stuff. But I don't eat any of those things anymore. So when I cook now, my meal is just a steak on a plate. And this is why I don't take pictures of my food, because that is it. It's just a lump of meat on a plate. You can't prettify that anymore. I mean, I could slice it up and stagger it, but it's just like, it's there. Plain and simple, super easy, no complications. That's me.
That's brilliant. Now then, I'm sorry to interrupt this for an advert, but my YouTube, we can't see that, subscribers is up to 9,979. So I'm trying to get to 10,000. So if you haven't subscribed and you're enjoying this, please subscribe. If you haven't subscribed and you're not enjoying this, please subscribe, because I still want to get to 10,000. But anyway, right, here we go. Serious question now. So yeah, PJ. Hi, gentlemen. Chest pains on Carnival. It was suggested to up calcium intake, which seems to help. Any more info on this, please? And your suggestions, thanks. Chest pains are not to be ignored. And if you can get to a healthcare provider, I would definitely be checked out personally. That's what I would say. What would you say, Rich?
Not a fan of calcium, as you know. One of the studies that we referenced recently, when we look at these electrolytes as nature intended, they predominate potassium, roughly 4-to-1 potassium to sodium. Then considerably lower is magnesium and calcium. And depend on the source, they're roughly 1-to-1. Yet, and this is how the cell utilizes magnesium and calcium. So calcium excites the cell and magnesium calms it down. The problem is that when we become carnivore, keto, and I'm not against any of these things that I'm going to list, there is a place for these things, and I have done them myself, and I still indulge on some of these things, but we will consume lots of cheese and dairy. We'll consume lots of calcium, or we may even supplement with calcium, and this is why my electrolytes do not contain calcium. But excess calcium consumption can increase cardiovascular disease by as much as 15%. There's several studies that we've referenced, over our time podcasting, and that's a big increase. So we need, and this is the reason that a lot of people will cramp also, people think that it's to do with inadequate magnesium, which technically it is, because that ratio is thrown out of whack. So they increase magnesium. The best form is glycinate, but in practice, the best thing to do is reduce your calcium. Take out your calcium, reduce your calcium. This will put the levels back into a better ratio. In regards to chest pains, it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, there's obviously something not quite right there, but what I have found is a lot of people, when they become carnivore, they seem to reference palpitations. Now, in my experience, what this is the body has lost a considerable amount of fat, and now we're more aware of the things that go on in our body, and we can feel it at the still of night when there's no noise. We can feel our heart beating. We can hear it through our body. And I think this is to do with the fact that we've lost a little bit of body fat, and we're now more tuned into the way that the body's working. If we look at blood pressure, or we put one of the heart monitors on, in the evenings or the nights when I think that I've had palpitations, there's nothing wrong with my heart rate. So I just somebody said to me recently, I've gone carnivore and I've come out with all these lumps. I'm like, oh, right, okay, well, let's take a look. It turns out that this young lady had lost so much weight that the bones were popping through on, the arms and the shoulders and her face. It was her bones, because she'd lost so much weight. She was now fit and healthy, and she'd never seen or felt the bones before, and she thought that they were lumps. So I think context is important, and we need to maybe bear in mind that some of these things that we are experiencing may not be what we think that they are. But again, as Stephen said, if you think that you are experiencing chest pains, then go and get it checked out. But potassium and sodium are also incredibly important. It could be a case that you are under supplementing or not consuming enough potassium through your diet. Number of reasons. It's I think context is incredibly important in this one, and I would suggest maybe a private consultation with myself or Stephen. Stephen's a qualified phlebotomist, so you can go through any bloods. So tap Stephen up or ping me, whatever you want to do, and maybe we can go into more detail in regards to that.
Yeah, and I think just to broaden it out, I mean, chest pains, people immediately think it's the heart. It could be so many things. It could be chest muscles. It could be ribs. It could be respiratory problems. You could have bone issues. It could even be anxiety or stress. It could be grinding your teeth at night and stress that you're suppressing during the day that's coming out during the night and giving you anxiety, and therefore giving you some sort of chest pains as well. So, yeah. And because it's a serious thing, we're both saying seek sort of help straight away and get it checked out and find out exactly what's going on, because you can't ignore chest pain. Right, and context would be handy. So yeah, more information is the better. Hope that's helped. Right, people are making suggestions for your business, which I think is really good. Cud Kiddie, I think your next project should be affordable carnivore beef snack like pemmican. Clean, meaty fuel for people on the go.
So we do have a range of clean sort of jerkies and stuff. And those are available through the website. Something similar. We could increase that range again. Unfortunately, I mean, because we cater for the low carb, keto and carnivore community, the carnivore is still an incredibly small percentage of the business. If you want us to bring more of these products in, which are the type of things that I would use, then we need you to buy the products. We need the cash flow in order to invest or reinvest within these products. So if you visit the website and there's a carnivore product on there you like, then buy it and tell your friends about it, and we will have the cash flow in order to invest in all of these other products, because that is where my heart lies. I will help anyone, whether they're low carb, keto or carnivore. But my goal is to have subsections on the website in regards to what your diet, lifestyle, and where you are on your journey is. But currently, a small percentage of the stuff we do is tailored specifically for carnivore, because that market is so small.
I think what's interesting, Rich, is it's been very helpful for your business tonight, and it feels very much like a setup. But we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what's going to come up.
You know me, I don't push business.
Yeah.
I very rarely mention products and things when we do the live, and I get quite embarrassed when people do. But if you're going to ask the questions, I'll gladly answer. This is why I created the business. It's there to support.
Yeah, I'm going to do my bit of what I should be saying. You're looking at that wrong, because people want to know what to eat. And they also want to know practicalities, Rich. And if you're a provider of things that can help them, why would you be selling something you don't believe in? So at least they know you're a genuine person, and the best chance they've got of getting something clean without things in it that they don't want is going to be you. So I'm going to not let you put your light under a bushel and say that, because that's the truth. I think that 100%, hand on heart. So anyway, White Wolf, you see, look at this. Some kind of carnivore convenience bar would be great. Easy trekking, stuff in a handbag type of bar. Currently using car cheese as convenient, individually wrapped cheese. Yes, now that's a phrase I've used. I've used pocket meat on a couple of my videos, which were things like, Scotch eggs, fried up bacon in a little bag that's just in my pocket. And I'm assuming White Wolf might be in the UK, because there is a carnival bar in America. So what's your answer to that? Do you have any convenience bars that are sort of carnivore?
Yeah, we've got all sorts of treats. We've got cheesy treats. So they're just pure cheese in a few different packets. We've got, as I say, we've got like beef jerky type treats. My go-to, again, same as you, is sliced cheese on the go, or dried bacon, jerky, that sort of stuff. We do have, for the carnivores who are listening, who are slightly less strict, I have developed what I believe to be the world's best keto bar. It does contain stevia, but it is lectin-free. It's a 50-gram bar. The salted caramel version contains 2 grams of carbs. The chocolate orange is 2.8. So possibly the lowest carb bar available in the world. But they are sweetener free. So they do not contain. We've taken out the stevia, we've taken out the erythritol, and we've changed it for glycerol, which is a sweet type of fat. We've removed the husk from the almonds, so they are lectin free. But they do contain certain plant compounds in regards to cocoa. So if you are slightly less strict, these are a fantastic alternative. They contain MCT, medium chain triglycerides, in the form of C8. Super handy for those who are less strict. And they are probably our number one seller in regards to snacks and treats. We've also got a third-party brand called Roberts Dorset, who are like pork cracklings, and we've got the Creators range. All of these are seed oil free. They're just pork and bacon that have been air fried and dried. Super handy and convenient. Those are third-party products. The other bar is my own recipe. But we are constantly looking and developing. We've got a list as long as my arm in regards to products I'd love to bid out, but we need support. The business is only possible, with the support of people. I've brought these products to the market to help people maintain their low carb, ketogenic, and carnivore lifestyle. But unless people spread the word and support the business, then there's no funds available to further the business and bring up the unflavored electrolytes, which we've mentioned time and time again. We allocated a slot to produce these early next year. I've had to cancel that because the business just doesn't have the funds to put that into production. Now, the unflavored electrolytes are incredible. They are perfect for carnivore. There's no nasties in there. Not that there's any nasties in the ones that we use, but they do contain stevia, which some strict carnivores do not want to use. These ones are completely stevia free, but it's we've had to knock that, and we don't have currently a production date for it. So support the business and we can bring all of these products to fruition. It's incredibly expensive to formulate and bring a product out. Steve, my wife and I have put 3 houses into the business. Everything that we own has gone into the business in order to bring these products to make people able to sustain the lifestyle, whether they are low carb all the way up to being strict carnivore. But we need that support back in order to bring these products out.
Yep. 6 minutes to go before we're on the other platform. I put the link in the comments. This comment is possibly going to be better answered on the other platform. Thoughts on cultured meats that are being promoted. So this is things like Beyond Burger and all that type of stuff. So I will skim over what my thoughts, because I think it might be something for the next hour at 8 p.m. But firstly, you're looking at cost. The cost of production is actually quite vast. They keep saying, well, there's going to be advancements in technology which will be able to scale up this production. A big one is people don't want them. The sales of these things, contrary to what you're being told, are not going through the roof, and there are many places actually shutting. So there's lots of vegan restaurants shutting. There's many outlets actually reducing their cultured meats. There's also the fact that the nutrients in the cultured meats are just a minuscule compared to real meat. The environmental impact is vast. Ethical concerns about animal welfare, because you've still got to get those initial cell samples, and where do they come from? So, there's everything, taste, everything wrong with it. I just feel it's a terrible way we're going. So let's just do a little plug here. Matthew saying, highly recommend booking a one-to-one consultation with Richard Stephen for a more personalized experience. Thank you very much. Let's have a look at this. What's this? Let's have a look. Landers. I think there is a lot of BS in the carnivore space. After eating carbs, how do people claim to recover from eating carbs the following day? How do they recover? Well, they don't eat them. I mean, this is what I say, Landers, to everybody I coach. If you go off the plan, don't be guilty. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just make sure your next meal is carnivore. That's what I would say. White Wolf, by the way, is in the UK. He's saying that, I've got a drink here. Hang on. Can I just swap? Thank you very much. I've come from Ketovore, where I've always been in ketosis, 4.5 stone off and kept off for 6 years, now carnivore, and hard to get my head around not needing to monitor ketones. Is this really true?
So the fact of the matter is that when you are carnivore, you're still in a ketogenic state. Yeah, you don't need to measure ketones, because the measurements typically come from acetoacetate or acetone, depending on whether it's a breath monitor or whether it's through the urine. Even blood monitors don't give a true reflection. For example, if I were to test my ketones, they're probably less than 0.5. But I'm in a ketogenic state constantly. This is because my body has upregulated all of these systems and enzymes and pathways in the body. And now my body's utilizing beta-hydroxybutyrate. So they're no longer in the bloodstream circulating around and being wasted through my breath and through the urine. You don't need to track. Just eat real food. You don't have to be strict carnivore. This is a subject that we've covered lots of times. Maybe we can go into more detail on the next channel. You've got to do what works for you. There are benefits to all of these things, and it depends on where you are on your journey in regards to where you want to reside. But there is a pinnacle, at least I believe. But you need to live the lifestyle that works for you. And really quickly, just while reading that, I just seen Carnival Muscle, our friend Jonathan. These two guys look dashing. So that's the best comment of the night, I think. So thank you very much for that. Jonathan will be with us on Tuesday during Carnivore GB, 7 p.m. Again, available through all our YouTube channels. Phil Escott and Ben also available. I don't know if we have any other guests on there on Tuesday, Steve.
I don't know if Jonathan's still watching, if he could type in if there's any guests, because it's his turn. He's got the baton for setting up the live stream this week. So I don't know. Right. So we have got a minute left. I'm going to thank everybody. Just to remind you, if we didn't get to your question, I think we've been pretty good tonight. I think we've not done too much padding in between. I would like to say, definitely, you can use the super chat, which just push the comment up. Again, we're not pushing things to make money. It just gets your question seen, and it helps us to eat the next day. So there you go. You've seen something, Rich. We've literally got 50 seconds before we go to the other channel.
Yeah, there was another comment by White Wolf actually regarding the C word that we're not allowed to mention. Maybe we can cover that on the next channel. We get a
Yeah,
little bit more
yes.
lenience in regards to certain subjects. That's why we opt for the other channel. It's a little bit less restrictive in regards to what we can and cannot say.
Absolutely. So from us two dashing guys in the UK, one Welsh and one English fella, and all you lot watching, thank you very much for watching, and
You
hopefully
beautiful
you'll
people.
follow us. Yeah, hopefully you'll follow us over to the other channel. Go on, you say it. You've got 10 seconds, Rich, to sum up tonight.
Yep. Thank you all. Well, appreciate your support. It's growing week on week. It'd be great to see you on the other channel. Thank you all. Take care and see you soon.
That was perfect.